And good evening and welcome to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show, coming to you from the historic Haskell House in downtown Clarion. I'm Mike Kalinowski, along with the other Mike Kilroy, as we get set for tonight's show. And well, Mike, hard to believe too, the football season starting to wrap up. We got the playoffs going on. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight. So it should be pretty exciting as far as that goes.
Yeah, we have two really good games this week. Two state playoff game with Central Clarion and Farrell. And we have a District 9 championship game in Class A with Redbank Valley and Port Allegheny. That's a rematch of a Week 3 game in which Port Allegheny ran wild over Redbank. I know since that game, they've been trying to correct some of those things to get another shot at the Gators, and they're going to get another shot on. But yeah, two exciting games this week. It should be interesting to see how that all shakes out. And we'll talk at length about those two games here tonight.
Yes, we will. And we'll also, too, we'll have a segment. We'll talk about the Farrell and Central Clarion game first. We'll talk about Redbank, Port Allegheny as well. We're going to come back to and talk a little bit about some of the other sports that have been wrapping up. But also, too, we're also going to talk a little bit about, how we get games on, talk about NFHS a little bit and how all of that works into things. A lot of times people do have questions about that, and we might as well try to bring some of those things to rest.
We'll try to clarify some of the a little bit more in-depth issues with NFHS and how you get it and how can you see these games that are going to be coming up in the future on that medium.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
Well, why don't we jump in? We're looking at Central Clarion out at Farrell. Farrell gets a home game to start, and that's been tradition ever since we had the COVID times. Farrell, tough football team. Kind of wild. You look at their record, they're at 7-5, and people go, really? They're, in this game. But this is a team that got some guys back as the season went on, and they also played a pretty tough schedule as well.
Yeah, you look at some of the teams that they played. They played a Hickory team, a team from a bigger class. Just had a great season. They lost to them by 3 or 4 points, 35-31. They lost to Fort LaBeouf from Erie, another team in a higher classification. Yep. They lost to them by a point. Then they played Ursuline, which is a perennial Ohio power. They took it on the chin against Ursuline, but I mean, if you're trying to find an opponent to play that's as tough as anyone you're going to see throughout the regular season, throughout your season, Ursuline's where you go. So they started 0-3, then they beat Mercer, then they came back and they lost by 7 to Sharon, another great team. So they were 1-4 out of the gate, and everyone kind of wrote them off. But since then, they've been on a roll. They have some talented players across the board. They're heading into this game on a hot streak. They beat Sharpsville for the second time to win the District 10 title. They have speed everywhere. Very concerning for Central Clarion. If they get in space, it's going to be a little bit of a trouble there for the Wildcats. So it's going to be interesting to see that, very misleading, the 7-5 record for Farrell. They're a much better team than that.
They are, and I had a chance too, because of course I do a lot in District 10, working over in that neighborhood and listening to people and talking and actually watching some. Sharpsville gave them everything they wanted to.
Sharpsville's a very good team.
Sharpsville surprised a lot of people, and I think even kind of took Farrell by surprise in that game. They were able to win the game before to get into the final by basically a last-second play. Quarterback had been injured, came back in, was able to connect and get them in against Farrell. But that game against Farrell actually came down in that second half. It was still a question who was going to win that ball game.
Yeah, it was 28-18 final in the district championship game. So Farrell's battle tested. I mean, they played probably one of the toughest schedules you're going to see in Class A. Of course, Central Clarion, we've talked about their schedule. Yeah. They beat a team from every classification. They played a 6A Butler at Butler and won that game. So they've been battle tested. You look at their schedule, you look at some of their scores, you look at they played maybe now a week's schedule. Well, they beat Du Bois, and you saw what Du Bois did. Du Bois almost beat Hollidaysburg last week. They played St. Mary's. They played Karn City, beat them 65-0 in the regular season. Karn City gave them all they could handle in the District 9 championship game. So don't go to sleep on Central Clarion's schedule either. They played some tough teams too.
Well, and I think that Karn City championship game, we brought that game to you, said a lot. And I'll tell you what, you really got to say kudos to the Karn City coaching staff and those players, because coming into that game, I think a lot of folks thought it was just going to be there and over with, like the game was during the regular season. Karn City came in with a heck of a game plan. They ran that football so effectively and well. They didn't get out of that. They didn't do anything crazy. And I'm sure that Farrell is looking at that film and other opponents down the road going, if this is how you're going to play this team, this is how you can. And with Farrell, too, you're going to see guys, too, that have a little more speed. So Central Clarion's going to have to be on the lookout here, because this will be a team that they really, even though they've seen some other classifications, they haven't seen a team like this all year.
Yeah, I talked to Dave Eggleton last night for a preview that I'm going to post here probably tonight or tomorrow, and we talked about all the athletes that Farrell has. But going back to Kern City, I think everyone in the state who knows anything about Kern City knew that game was going to be tough, because you don't beat Kern City 65-0 twice. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong for the Gremlins in that first game. I think both coaches just kind of wrote that one off as, okay, we play 100 times, maybe that happens once. But yeah, Kern City had a great game plan. It exposed some things that Central Clarion had trouble with, but that might be a good thing for Central Clarion, because now they know, okay, here's some of our weaknesses.
Yep.
Here's some of the things going into the state playoffs that we're going to have to fix, because teams are going to see this on tape. They're going to know, okay, X, Y, and Z was successful against us. How can we better prepare against teams that are going to try to exploit those? So I think it was good for Central Clarion, too, to have a game like that, to get some of those things exposed so they could come back, fix those things in the 2 weeks that they had to prepare for Farrell. Farrell only has 1 week to prepare for Central Clarion. That might be a factor, too. So now Central Clarion maybe shored some of those things up. They're going to go into this game maybe better prepared to stop some of the things that Farrell likes to do.
Yeah, and Farrell has a lot of weapons, too. When you look at Farrell, it is Aaron Pegues at the quarterback position. On the season, he completed 119 of 186 passes, over 1,600 yards. So very, very adept quarterback, 16 touchdowns. And he also can run the football well, too. He's run for over 300.
Yeah,
so
and
right
only,
there,
and only 4 interceptions, which is a big stat for a quarterback at high school level.
Well, you have 2 quarterbacks coming in very similar, too.
Yeah.
They're they're almost like a slash type where they can throw, but they can also take off and go.
Yeah, and Jace Ferguson runs that RPO that Central Clarion employs so well. That's a tough. You think about all the decisions Jace Ferguson has to make in split seconds. Whether to keep it, whether to hand it off, whether to run himself, find an open receiver down the field. So that's not an easy task, and that's why he's a 4-year starter. Actually, Coach Eggleton and I were talking about it'd be hard-pressed to find another quarterback in the state who has as many starts under his belt as Jace Ferguson.
Absolutely. And when you look at rushing the football too, Farrell, over 2,000 yards rushing the football. So they're very adept there as well. We talked about Pegues, but also Jamari Johnson, 1,607 yards. You want to talk about a guy that can run. He's got 23 touchdowns. He can bowl his way. He's fast. He's all of those things.
Yeah, obviously Farrell likes to run the ball with him. He has a lot of carries, but they're very multidimensional too. They have a couple of receivers they have one with 40 receptions, another one with 23, another one with 23. So they spread the ball around on offense. They run a lot of your typical kind of spread stuff, like the bubble screens, the quick hitters. So that might give Central Clarion some problem, because if Central Clarion has a big strength, and going into this game, it's going to be up front on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and you look at also rushing the football, Dorian Johnson, 20 carries, 213 yards. You mentioned, too, some of the receivers. Julius Phillips, 23 receptions for 530 yards. You have Jones with 41 catches for 436 yards. Both of those guys combined 11 touchdowns between the two of them. You throw in Johnson, 23 catches for almost 300 yards. So you're right. And again, it's almost like you're looking at Farrell. It's almost like not a mirror image, but very similar to Clarion, where again, very multifaceted, and they can go about it any way that they can.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to be looking at film and saying, okay, how can we best attack the Central Clarion defense, which doesn't have a whole lot of holes in it. You look at their scores this year, a lot of shutouts. A lot of the points they gave up was in garbage time against their JV. So, we talk a lot about Central Clarion's offense and how dynamic and how impressive they are, but their defense, I would stack them up against just about anybody in the state too. And that might be kind of their, if you want to call it a secret weapon for Central Clarion is they have a very, very stout defense that has seen some of the things that Farrell likes to do this year and might be able to formulate a game plan to kind of slow those guys down. But again, they haven't seen the athletes that Farrell has this year.
Well, but you just mentioned defense too, and I was looking through the stats on defense, and Charlie Hepfel, 93 total tackles in there, and That's just insane on a season.
Especially when you're considering he's probably played maybe 3 quarters in every game. So it's like he only really played like 2/3 of a season to get 93 tackles.
Also have Braylon Beckwith now. They're going to be out with the services of Beckwith, but 85 tackles on the season for him. And then, Ferguson's in there with about 50 tackles. Sawicki has 46. Allison with 42. And it goes Ethan Rex with 36. Parker with 33. So all of those guys are all, contributing. It will be interesting to see how that defense also plays without Beckwith back there. He has that injury that's going to keep him out.
That's a big loss. But again, Central Clarion has a lot of. You mentioned all those guys. It's next man up mentality. They have guys that can step up into that role and play really good football. They play a really good team defense. There isn't one guy that you lose him, our defense is going to crumble. I think they're going to be okay defensively even without him.
Yeah, when you look at Jace Ferguson on the season, 168 of 237, 2,748 yards. That's just impressive. 44 touchdowns. He had a long pass of 90 yards, which that's impressive in itself. His quarterback rating, I looked at that and I kind of did a double take, 140.3. Isn't that pretty close to almost perfection?
Well, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a different scale, I think, when you go to high school rather than the NFL court, but it's still pretty impressive. But he's only thrown how many interceptions? 5?
Oh, let's see, 5. Yeah.
5.
Yeah, you're right.
I think 3 came in one game.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive statistics for Jace Ferguson.
Oh, absolutely.
And his career stats are just as impressive too.
And you also have, he's rushed for almost 1,000 yards. Noah Harrison, too, from the backfield. Here's a guy, too, that could do a lot of stuff for you. 45 carries, 364 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns rushing. Ethan Rex, 33 carries for 215. We see him a lot of times coming out of the backfield. He has a couple touchdowns. But I'll tell you what, they use Rex a lot, too, with that sweep. They'll do that little shovel pass to him or that short pass. It's been pretty effective for Central Clarion in trying to utilize that speed of Rex and the speed of Burford and the speed of those guys. But again, that's going to come into question this week when they have to stack up against a team. We talk about opponents and teams that you've seen, and you said it earlier, they haven't seen the speed that they're going to see this week.
No, Farrell definitely is the fastest team, most athletic team they're going to see. But Central Clarion also has some athletes. You kind of mentioned them. And don't forget Jesse Sawicki, who came in and filled in for Mason Burford when he was hurt, and all he did was catch touchdown after touchdown, long touchdown pass after long touchdown pass. So now they have bookend guys who can go deep, really stretch that defense, opens things up for Rex. That's why Rex has had all these receptions underneath, because they're taking the top off of these defenses with those 2 deep threats, and that leaves the middle open. Ferguson can take off and run. It also opens up some of the running game. They have a very balanced running game. No one really pops off the screen when you look at Central Clarion's rushing stats. But if you take them as a whole, they have a pretty good rushing attack.
Very much, and you talked about the passing game too. Mason Burford, 36 catches, 869 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's that deep threat that they have. They love going to him. He's tall. And
he's got speed.
He's got speed. They can lay that ball up there, and he can go for it. Ethan Rex, 61 receptions. That's just insane. For 684 yards, 13 touchdowns, and Jesse Sawicki with 16 receptions, 495 yards, and 5 touchdowns to lead them. But when you look at all 3 of those guys, again, you think speed, you think good hands, and it just again that idea of that multifaceted offense.
Yeah, Central Clarion can pretty much hurt you any way they want. They can run the ball when needed. If the defense shows them, okay, we're going to give you the running game, they can run it. They can throw short. They can throw deep. They can hit Rex over the middle. He had 18 receptions in one game this year, so obviously he's got good hands, and they can go to him. So they have a lot of weapons they can go to. That's what makes Central Clarion so dangerous. Is they are not just one way they can beat you. They can beat you in a number of different ways. And that might be the key too. And also, you always have to go back to the lines. Central Clarion has a clear advantage up front in this game, and I think that's where it's going to boil down to. If they can control both lines of scrimmage, they're going to have a lot better chance to win this game.
And that's, I think, big too. You talk about the big guys up front with Kern, Heineman, and trying to think of the other guys down there. Alston is in there, and I'm leaving a few out. Don't yell at me.
Yeah.
I have that list over there. We got to remember a lot of teams, but they're big up front. Against Karn City, they were tested a lot. and they did make some mistakes, and I think that's something they're going to have to stay away from. They were called for a few more penalties than we're used to seeing a Clarion team called on, and against a team like Farrell, they just can't make those mistakes.
Well, Karn City is very physical up front. I don't know if Farrell is that physical up front. Usually those physical teams, you're going to get more calls because it's more of a physical game. You tend to grab more. You tend to lose some of your fundamentals when you're getting beat around for 48 minutes. So I don't know if Farrell has that kind of a physical up front. So that might not be an issue, but it's still going to be a terrific game because it really is a battle of like battle of wills. Both teams like to do a lot of different things. It's going to be who's going to make the fewest mistakes and who's going to make the big play when they need it. It's really what it's going to come down to. I know it sounds cliche, but every game comes down to that. Who's going to make the fewest mistakes and who's going to make the big. But I think in this one, it's going to be one of those. Okay, who's going to step up for either team?
Yeah, and if you were Central Clarion too, you're thinking last year when Westinghouse dropped down to single A, you're like, okay, well that's one less we got to worry about. And then you see Farrell bumping up to the 2A level because they had been single A. So and then you went, well, here we go. It doesn't matter anymore, I think too. The way it is with the 6A system and all that stuff at those different levels, especially when you started getting into especially 2A, 3A and stuff like that, down the road, especially when you'll see teams out of District 10 like Farrell, but also teams out of the Whippeal and District 7 and stuff like that. These are teams that consistently week after week are going up against some really good football teams. So, when you get into this point in the state playoffs, it's going to be, your opponent's going to be quality no matter what.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned the schedules both of these teams played. You can look at a handful of teams that are really good and really good tests. So you can't really go by, okay, well they scored X amount of points against this team. They scored X amount of points against this team. Both teams played good schedules.
Yeah, and again, Farrell's going to get this as a home football game because again how the schedules are working now, and you wonder how that will play into the contest as well. And when you go over, they're going to have a huge crowd. People are going to be turning out to watch this football game. So, this will be another thing that Central Clarion coming into. And they're used to big crowds. I mean, people have come down rooting for them. And the Central Clarion crowd's going to be there too in full force. But they're going to go into a situation where Farrell, it's kind of a different atmosphere too when you go over there.
Yeah, it's a really good atmosphere. It's a really cool stadium. We were there last year for a state playoff game. Just a cool place to watch a football game. Good place for the fans to watch a football game. Great surface, great facility. So that's going to add to it too. And yeah, it's a Farrell home game. So that's an interesting too. Since COVID, that changed a little bit. You used to have neutral sites right off the bat. Now they're a little lax on where they put some of these games, and so Farrell gets a home game. So that obviously is an advantage for Farrell. But Central Clarion also can go in there. Okay, we got a little chip on our shoulder. We're playing a road game in the state playoffs. So that's against the world. So they had done that. They did that against Westinghouse too. They went down to couples and had to play Westinghouse on their home field. So they're used to it in this round, going on the road to a home site against a really good opponent. So, yeah. No,
and you wonder too. And this kind of speaking as we talked about Braylon Beckwith being out, but Thomas Euchre's also not going to be able to play in this ball game with his medical issue, and you just wonder how that's going to affect that offense. Although,
well, good thing they got another kicker.
I was just going to say because
and Euchre actually recruited is it Brendan Bedway?
Yep.
Yeah. He actually recruited him to come out and kick to kind of take over for him.
And he's done a good job.
Yeah, he was perfect on extra points in a game that he kicked in, and yeah, Euchre won't be back until possibly the state championship game with a collapsed lung issue. He's had surgery on Monday. I did a story on him. He actually talked to me from his hospital bed on Tuesday. He had these. It's kind of a weird thing. He had these little bubbles full of air growing on the outside of his lung, and when they burst, it filled up his chest cavity with air, which caused his lung to collapse. So they actually had to go. It happened to him twice. Okay. So they actually had to go in and take the remaining bubbles out, basically scar his lung, so they wouldn't grow back. So now he's got recovery. It's very painful, obviously. Just think about it. They scarred his lung.
Oh my goodness.
They made it bleed and scarred it. But he said in 3 weeks he should be fine. He should be back. He's going to be back playing soccer. He's going to be back kicking. So it's good for him. I mean, that was a scary situation for him because he didn't know what was going on. Your lungs just spontaneously collapses. Obviously, you're concerned, especially when you play a sport like soccer where you're running all the time and you need your lungs. So, but it's good that they figured it out. He's on the road to recovery.
And that's one thing too, and this is just a side note, over the years when soccer started to be added by a lot of these schools, one thing that we noticed as time went on, how better the kicking got in the football game around here, because up until a certain point, and I can tell you going back a long time ago, there were many times that teams, they wouldn't even think about attempting an extra point. And now some of those teams that's one of the first things they think about. So with the advent of soccer coming along, and you see like Thomas and some of these other guys that play that and then also come in and kick for football, certainly has changed the game a little bit.
Yeah, Redbank has a soccer player, Kieran Fricko.
Yep.
He's been booting extra points all year and kicking field goals. He kicked the field goal a few games this year. But yeah, soccer's really helped football with the kicking game. St. Mary's, I think, actually had a girl kick for them a couple years ago who played soccer, and she did a really good job for them. So, but yeah, now the kicking game is a big part of high school football. I mean, it used to be, hey, if you had a kicker, you had a huge advantage. Now, if you don't have a kicker, you have a huge disadvantage because everyone else does.
Well, and they're attempting field goals too. You see them in years ago. But some of that too also goes to you have a good kicker, but now, I mean, years ago, and you know this as well, they'd be playing a lot of these playoff games on grass fields. The weather would start getting bad, as you see. It's supposed to rain on Thursday and all that stuff. And they would go in. I remember a playoff game where Clarion was playing over at Du Bois. Clarion probably had more speed and all this stuff other than their opponent, but because of the weather and everything, and the field was just atrocious. It really equalized things, and Clarion ended up losing that game. I'm trying to remember who it was against. Bob Dunkel's probably sitting at home going, I'll tell you who it is. He has a better memory than I do.
His encyclopedia knowledge.
But now, not only do you have good kickers, but you're also playing on surfaces where it's conducive to the play with the artificial surfaces.
Yeah.
So that's changed it a lot too.
Yeah, it's changed a whole bunch. I remember when I first started covering games, I mean, if you had a kicker, it was like, whoa, they have a kicker that can kick extra points, and they can kick field goals, and they don't have to go for two all the time, and they don't have to, you don't see these 12-6 scores or 18-12 scores. Now you see kids lining up for 40-yard field goals and nailing them. So it's good for the game, good for the sport. It changes the strategy quite a bit. That might be another advantage that Central Clarion might have. They have a kicker, Farrell doesn't. So if it comes down to an extra point, comes down to a short field goal, the Wildcats have a huge advantage there.
They can take that opportunity, and that's big. Special teams, you don't think about it that much, but kicking the ball off too, where Thomas and I know Brandon, he's able to get that touchback and set him up at the 20-yard line instead of having that run back. And with Farrell too, you want to stay away from that speed. But sometimes when you kick it short, you also don't want to give them the short field either.
Yeah.
So a lot of times kicking that ball into the end zone, that's a big part of the game.
Yeah, touchbacks can be big because Farrell obviously has a good good return game. You want to flip that field position. In high school, it's still at the 20. So that's a huge advantage. Making a team go 80 yards, that's tough.
Yeah, I always forget too sometimes because I do the college games too. And of course, in college, if you have a touchback on a kickoff, it comes out to the 25. And then in a high school game, it's not. I said, we always talk about this too. It'd be really nice if they would get on the same
page,
wavelength for all different levels, because I just think it makes sense. I mean, a lot of those different rules and stuff like that, especially the kickoff rule and stuff, it just wouldn't make sense that they would.
Yeah, you got high school, it's the 20. College is 25, NFL now is 30. Unless you hit the ground in the landing zone and it goes out, then it's at the 20. So there's all these different rules now. And it makes it confusing from day to day.
I don't understand the NFL, never have. But it is certainly something. So we'll see how things pan out between those two teams coming up on Friday night. We're going to have the game for you too, and we'll talk about this later on about NFHS. But the game will be on NFHS only, so you will need a subscription to watch. But it is the Explore broadcast crew. You will have to put up with Dave Cadis and Mike Kilroy.
Yep, I'm going to be on the broadcast with Dave at the Central Clarion game. And you're going to go all the way up to the hinterland up in Bradford.
Well, I have to learn too. I have to change my way of talking. It's Bradford. Bradford.
Pick up some Buffalo Bills gear while you're up there
we can
for
do
me,
that.
because I'm a Bills fan.
All right, we might be able to do that. All right, so We're going to start to wrap up segment number 1 here. Great talk about this first game, and hopefully some folks too, you understand some of the guys you're going to hear, especially from Farrell, if you're in this local area. Very talented team, and should be a heck of a ball game.
Yeah.
You're going to have fun over there.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like I said, kind of recapping what we went over. 7-5 record, throw that out the window. It's misleading. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be playoff football, state playoff football.
All right, so we're going to wrap up segment 1. We're going to come back. We'll talk a little bit about Redbank, Port Allegheny. That's on the way. And it is the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. We're live tonight from the historic Haskell House here in downtown Clarion. We'll be back right after this.
You can afford a gorgeous, custom-designed hardwood Kale's kitchen for a lot less than you'd pay at a DIY store. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. At Kale's, there are never middleman markups or hidden charges that can add 40%. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. That's FactoryDirectKitchens.net.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
Your eyes are the window to your soul, so take care of them. The Laurel Eye Clinic provides complete care from annual exams, glasses and contacts to cataract and retinal surgery, LASIK and more. As a trusted leader in family eye care for 50 years, you can trust them with yours. Call or visit us online today.
The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires. Need reliable plumbing or heating services? Call Luton's Plumbing and Heating. Fast, friendly, and available 24/7. Call them at 814-226-8695.
Hi, my name is Jason, and welcome to Sweet Basil. Come on in.
This game is brought to you by Tionesta Builders? No. Tionesta Builder Supply. Family-owned and operated home improvement centers located in Tionesta and Shippenville.
Dubrook is your trusted ready-mix concrete supplier. From commercial to residential, Dubrook has you covered. Call 1-844-DUBROOK or visit DuBrooking.com. Dubrook is proud to support our local communities. Dubrook, your solid choice in all things concrete.
Affordable opportunities are endless at Northern Pennsylvania Regional College. If you're looking to start next semester or next year, apply now at discovernprc.org. discovernprc.org.
And welcome back to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. I am Mike Kalinowski along with Mike Kilroy, MK1, MK2. We're here rocking and rolling tonight, and we are in the Haskell House here in Clarion. Next game coming up, we kind of alluded to it. It is up in Bradford as Port Allegheny and Redbank Valley will set to lock horns in that single A championship. And I'll tell you what, should be a great game up there as well. It's going to be cold. Who knows? It might be snowing up there.
Yeah.
You just never know when you go.
The weather's very variable up in Bradford this time of year. It could be 70 one day, and it could be a snowstorm blizzard the next day up in Bradford.
Well, I got excited too. I said, well, after the game, we can go over to Beefeaters. If you ever been up there,
I've never been to Bradford.
It is phenomenal. Bob Dunkel raves too. I mean, we've been there a few times with playoff games. They close at 9 o'clock.
Huh.
And I said, well, that's not good. So I called. I said, could you stay open until about 10 or 11? And they said, what? So I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
But
I've been to Buffalo, which isn't that far from Bradford.
No, you're not. But big game up there with that single A championship. A lot of folks were a little upset it was that far away, but a lot of schools are getting ready for winter sports and all that other stuff. So I think Bradford was one of the few that said, well, come on, let's go.
Yeah, there's only a few places where you could play that game. Yeah. Brockway being one. That's where it was last year when Redbank beat Port Allegheny 26-7 in the championship game last year. Brockway couldn't do it. Brookville has that new field, but again, that Port Allegheny is the #1 seed. They should get preferential location, and that would be benefiting Redbank. So Bradford was really the only place it could be. Yeah, is it kind of out of the way for some of the people down here, Redbank people? Well, yeah, but you also have an option to watch it on our telecast.
That's right. You can kick back, relax, and enjoy. Hopefully, if you get up there, go if you can. If you can't, of course, it will be on Explore Clarion and Explore Sports PA. It is not on NFHS like the Clarion game, so this round at least you'll be able to watch with us. Tyler's driving too, so I'm not too worried. I'm going to go to sleep. So by the time we get up there rolling. But you look at these two teams, Port Allegheny, we don't get to see them much down here. Earlier in the season, they knocked off Redbank Valley in that ball game.
66-38.
And that game was over with kind of early. Redbank came back a little bit with some points later on. And they just beat Keystone, of course, to get into this championship game. 11-0, 6-0 in the conference. And this is a team, even though their quarterback's okay, he's a freshman, he can throw the ball, he does okay. They run, and they run, and they run, don't they?
Yeah, and you mentioned that freshman quarterback. Since he went into the game, he's given them a little bit of a different dimension.
Yep.
You can't put 9 guys, 10 guys in the box and pray that they don't hit a big play over the top, because he can. He's completing almost 75% of his passes. Yep. He's hit some big passes, but what Port Allegheny wants to do is they want to run behind that big physical offensive line with that big physical back, Aiden Bliss, who is a nightmare to tackle. He has 2,300 and some yards this year, 40 some touchdowns. He's a beast. Everyone's had problems stopping him. As a team, Port Allegheny is averaging 10 yards a carry. They have over 4,000 yards rushing. So there's no secret what Port Allegheny wants to do. And they just line up and say, here, stop us. Good luck. And no one's been able to do it. Yeah,
when you look at that too, as a team, 4,110 yards rushing the football. And you mentioned Bliss with the 2301.
They have another guy with 1,100 yards.
Yeah, Kaiser has 1108.
Yeah.
And then they have right down. But also they have what do they have? Wilfong with 155, Boyd with 136, which is great for guys that are just coming in. Giving them Postlewaite with 112. So this is a team that, when it comes, like you said, big line. They're going to run behind them. But when you also look defensively, they've scored 580 points on the season, giving up just 194. They've got a couple guys big time too with names on defense.
Yes, they do. Don't sleep on Port Allegheny's defense. A lot of the points they've given up too has come in a little bit of garbage time because they just dominate so much in the first halves of games that they take these guys out and the JV plays and teams put some points up. But two teams have given them problems defensively. Redbank was one of them. They scored 38 points in that 66-38 loss. Braylon Wagner had a really good game that week in that loss. And Ridgeway gave them trouble. Ridgeway is one of those teams, though, that is physical, too. So a physical team matches up well with Port Allegheny, and that's something Redbank's been trying to build with their offensive line and their team, to try to get more physical, try to get more dominant up front. I don't think they're there yet, though, but they're going to be better. This game's going to be better. It's not going to be a 66-38 game.
Yeah, you said the one guy, too, for Port with the pancake blocks, who was that?
Yeah, Cam Neely.
How many?
47 pancake blocks. They keep pancake block stats. Very hard stat to keep. Obviously, they go back and look at the film and see, okay, who's putting who on the back. Well, he's putting a lot of guys on his back. He's one of the top heavyweight wrestlers in the state. Coach Kalinowski called him the smartest football player, one of the smartest football players he's ever coached. So he's obviously a very, very good football player on the field and between the ears. So their offensive line is just, you don't find an offensive line as big and as strong and as athletic as this at the single A level. You just don't. When
you were talking about those pancake blocks, I was thinking to myself, he's like he's having a buffet to himself when it comes to
if they had a broken tackle stat on here, Bliss would be through the roof too, because no one can tackle the guy.
Yeah, and they're impressive, with Bliss, with Kaiser, and then, receiving the ball too. You talked about the quarterback, Phil Hart, 38 of 51 for 655 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions for a young player like that. Yeah. That's kind of impressive for a freshman.
Yeah, they made the switch because Wilfong was one of their best receivers, best hands on the team. And they wanted to get him into a little bit more of a receiver role, kind of get him the ball elsewhere other than quarterback. It wasn't necessarily a popular decision up there to go with a freshman quarterback with this kind of team, but he's done a really good job.
Fantastic. You mentioned Wilfong, 8 catches, 186 yards, couple touchdowns. Is it Valou, the sophomore, 11 catches for 242. Kaiser, 17 for 228. He's got 4 touchdowns. Bliss, of course, out of the backfield, 6 catches for 113 yards. So, this is a multifaceted team. We talked about that a lot with Central Clarion. We talked about that a lot with Farrell. Again, they're not going to throw as much, but if they need to, they will. And that's where, when you mentioned about Redbank Valley up front, they did move Jackson Huffman too to the line for a while.
He's been back at wide receiver.
And he's been back at wide receiver.
He's got Monrian back.
Yeah, they've been trying to shore things up there.
Yeah.
And he had a strong game there. It'll be interesting to see how Redbank attacks this game.
Yeah, they moved Brock George too, who was a backup running back, to guard, and he's done a great job for Redbank since moving there. Their line has gotten better. They ran the ball pretty well last week against Union AC Valley. They opened up some holes for Drew Byers and for Austin Eastlick. They're giving Braylon Wagner some time. One thing that really throws Braylon Wagner off his game, this offense off their game, is when they can get pressure. Karn City got pressure, and he had a rough game. Port Allegheny didn't really get a lot of pressure on him in that first game, and you saw they put up 38 points. But really, since that week 3, Redbank's sole purpose has been, how are we going to get better for this potential rematch that they have this week? It's been their focus for the last, 8 weeks, 2 months to try to get, now they're here. So they have a playbook. They're going to go to every page of that playbook, Redbank. They're going to throw everything at Port. Port knows that too, but there's going to be nothing left in that playbook. They're going to go to everything to try to win this game.
Well, it should be interesting, of course, on the season. They were 9-3, 5-1 in the conference, and their conference loss, of course, was to Port. And but tough games. But they bounced back. Like when they lost big against Port, they bounced back. When they lost big against Karn City, they bounced back. And that's been kind of the mantra of this team, that they haven't held their heads low, that they've been able to come back and get big wins after those losses.
Well, you look at their 3 losses: 11-0 Port Allegheny, 11-0 Central Clarion, and they lost to I'm drawing a blank. Karn City. Karn City nearly knocked off Central Clarion. It was 7-7 at halftime. I think Karn City lost 3 games all year. So, 3 pretty tough teams they lost to, and they beat everybody they were supposed to beat on their schedule. So,
and that was a tough loss against Karn City too. That was later in the season, and you wonder how a team's going to react. But Coach Gould's really good at keeping those guys up, keeping them, focused on that next week. Okay, that was bad. We got to forget. Yeah. And then they always come back good. Wagner on the season, of course, when you look at some of their stars, he's been all over the place. 34 touchdowns throwing the ball. 182 at 317, 2784 as far as yards. He can run to something that we didn't see a lot of last year. That was another dimension that they were putting in this year. But he's run for 406 yards to be the second leading rusher on the team. So, he's, again, we talk about multi-faceted quarterbacks, and they certainly have that at Redbank Valley.
And Wagner, I don't think a lot of people realize just how fast he is. He went up to that combine at Brockway, and he got laser time. I think he was in the 4.4, 4.5 range, so he can fly. And he made a number of runs against Union AC Valley last week that were like, wow, wow moments, reversing his field, scoring on one touchdown, just making people miss, just with a slight move. And they're putting him in at safety. He played a little bit at safety earlier in the season, but now Coach Gold's like, hey, we got to use our best athlete. He was on special teams. He almost blocked the punt last week, Braylon Wagner. So, again, they're emptying everything out. They have nothing to lose, right?
You got to go for it.
Go put your best athlete out on the field on defense at safety. He had an interception return for a touchdown against Cameron County that really turned that game, put the momentum squarely with Redbank at the end of the half. So he's a phenomenal athlete, and he's probably going to be the best athlete on that field for either team.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up our talk here about Redbank Valley and Port Allegheny. That game, of course, again, you can watch right here on Explore Clarion and Explore Sports PA. We'll have that for you. I'll be up there with the Governor Bob Dunkel. Tyler's going to be up there, and we got a Boston kid with us. Should be interesting out in that cold air. Although they're used to it up in Boston.
Does he have a Boston accent? Does he say,
no, actually, I think he's assimilated more to our way of speaking. So I don't know if that's good or not. But up in Bradford, though, he may get that back because they've got that New Yorkish accent. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, that'll wrap up this segment. We're going to come back with more for you, a little more miscellaneous stuff to talk about. We'll talk about the NFHS as well. It's all on the way. And you are watching the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show. It's live right here from the Haskell House. And we'll be right back after this.
Affordable opportunities are endless at Northern Pennsylvania Regional College. If you're looking to start next semester or next year, apply now at discovernprc.org. discovernprc.org.
Modern Living Solutions in Knox is always on the lookout for driven, positive individuals to join their team. They offer career growth opportunities and industry-leading pay. No experience is necessary as training is provided. Apply today and build a future with Modern Living Solutions.
Dubrook is your trusted ready-mix concrete supplier. From commercial to residential, Dubrook has you covered. Call 1-844-DUBROOK or visit dubrooking.com. Dubrook is proud to support our local communities. Dubrook, your solid choice in all things concrete.
This game is brought to you by Tionesta Builders? No, Tionesta Builders Supply. Family-owned and operated home improvement centers located in Tionesta and Shippenville.
Hi, my name is Jason, and welcome to Sweet Basil. Come on in.
Need reliable plumbing or heating services? Call Luton's Plumbing and Heating. Fast, friendly, and available 24/7. Call them at 814-226-8695. The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires.
Your eyes are the window to your soul, so take care of them. The Laurel Eye Clinic provides complete care from annual exams, glasses and contacts to cataract and retinal surgery, LASIK and more. As a trusted leader in family eye care for 50 years, you can trust them with yours. Call or visit us online today.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
You can afford a gorgeous, custom-designed hardwood Kales kitchen for a lot less than you'd pay at a DIY store. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. At Kales, there are never middleman markups or hidden charges that can add 40%. Go to FactoryDirectKitchens.net. That's FactoryDirectKitchens.net.
The Cooper Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT, our most trusted truck tire, is now better than ever and available for your truck or SUV. They're designed for the reliability and durability to find adventure beyond the pavement and are backed by a Cooper mileage warranty of up to 65,000 miles. Learn more about the reliable Discoverer Road Plus Trail AT at CooperTire.com. Count on Cooper. Or stop by Carly Tires in Clarion. Carly Tires, the area's largest selection of tires. Need reliable plumbing or heating services? Call Luton's Plumbing and Heating. Fast, friendly, and available 24/7. Call them at 814-226-8695.
All right, welcome back to the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show here from the historic Haskell House here in downtown Clarion. And Mike Kalinowski, Mike Kilroy with you. And Tyler Oakes behind the computer back there. And, I was just going to call you Tyler. There could be worse things. I could say Bob Dunkel, and then you'd be like fighting words, right?
Yeah, we might have to throw down then.
Volleyball season came to an end. We had a few teams that made the state playoffs. Redbank Valley was in, I always want to say Central Clarion, but Clarion, and then Clarion Limestone. Clarion Limestone and Redbank lost in that first round. Clarion lost to a very tough Fraser team. You actually had the call with Lexus at the college game, and that was probably one of the better teams you've seen all year when it comes to Fraser.
Fraser was an amazing team, just because they can just bring wave after wave of attack at you. They had a girl with 9 kills, a girl with 8 kills, a girl with 7 kills, a girl with 6 kills. I mean, it's really hard to compete against a team like that. You can't just block one player. You have to be on your toes from blind to the net. You have to cover the whole court. And what really impressed me with Fraser was their serve. They had, I think, 12 service aces against a Clarion team. That never happens against a Clarion team. They're usually really good at serve receive. It was just one of those where it was clearly Fraser was a better team. And Clarion's not a bad team. No. Clarion got really, really hot at the end of the season. Marley Klein, Hadley Campbell, Addie Campbell. You just go down the line. Durish. Burford in the middle there, Babington on the outside, lefty. They bring in Anna O'Toole. She served great down the stretch. She had a number of aces. So Clarion had a great season. It was a really good bounce back season for them. Win the district title, win a state playoff game. That's what they're used to doing year in and year out.
Yeah, and this has been like the first time, in the last 4 years, that we're not going to have a District 9 team in the state final.
Yeah, Elk County
So
went.
that's something. That's a feather in the cap.
Elk County went last year. Oswego Valley, I think, got to the semifinal, state semis, and they lost the year before that. And then, of course, Clarion won the 2 straight.
Yep.
So this is the first time in at least 5 years that there hasn't been a District 9 team, at least in the state semis.
Yeah, and also kudos to all the fans out there, because, boy, I'll tell you, this year, when we do football games, big football games, and we get a lot of views, we get a lot of people watching, but I was really impressed too with the numbers that came in with people, especially those Clarion Limestone and Clarion matches.
Yeah.
Those 2 teams, boy, did they lock horns this year. And CL had won 4 in a row against Clarion. They beat them in the KSAC championship. Then Clarion comes back and beats them in the district championship. Just phenomenal how that sport is really building and taking off, because you see the fans that are turning out in larger numbers, and we can sure see it when it comes to people watching.
Well, that Clarion Limestone matchup was special. It went back to last year, it was special. It was even more special this year because those teams were so evenly matched, such good volleyball teams, such well-coached volleyball teams, such fundamentally sound volleyball teams. Neither team made a lot of mistakes. So when you have 2 teams that go up against each other like that with all those qualities, you're going to have a great match. You're going to have 5-set matches. So the 5-setter in the KSAC championship game that Clarion Limestone was able to win. And then you saw the 5-setter in the district championship that Clarion was able to pull out. So two great teams, and they're still going to be good. They're going to be really good again. I know Clarion Limestone's losing those 2 really good seniors, Maddie Greeley and Jenna Dunn. Those girls are going to be really, really hard to replace. And Clarion's going to lose some girls who are going to be really hard to replace. But they have programs now. They don't just have good teams. They have good programs. You see it year after year. These programs just they don't rebuild. They reload. There's girls coming up who are watching these girls succeed, win district titles, play in district title games. They want to be just like them. So they're going to put the work in, and they're going to come up and be the next stars that we're going to be talking about on these shows. Next stars you're going to be seeing on our broadcasts.
Absolutely.
Playing 5-setters, playing dramatic, high-level volleyball.
Yeah, and you wonder too down the road, and I always think about this too, with Clarion and Clarion Limestone, at some point, do these teams get joined up? Could you imagine the volleyball team that you would have with Klein and
it would
with
almost
the
be
Campbells and with Dunn and with Greeley and I could go down the list with Smith and this one and that one.
Yeah, Kaylee Smith's
Oh,
another
my
one
goodness,
for
you know.
CL. It
And
would
both-
almost be too much.
Yeah.
It would almost be too good of a team because you would have girls that would be sitting on the bench who have no business sitting on the bench.
Yeah, 100%. But it's just interesting to think about because down the road, as things go, and I always think about, boy, what would that team be like? And it would be incredible.
Who would you sit? You have Jenna Dunn,
be
Maddie
hard.
Greeley, Hadley Campbell, Marley Klein. Who would you sit? Because you can't start the game with those 4 on the
Yeah, it
court.
would be a
Who
hard.
Would you sit?
Yeah, as a coach, I wouldn't know what you would do. But boy, great job though to those ladies. Redbank too, tip of the cap, getting back.
Oh
into
yeah,
the
we didn't even
state
talk about
playoffs.
Redbank, who played exceedingly
Yes.
well at the end of the season. They had a tough KSAC tournament, but look who they played. That was a tough tournament. And then you had the start, which is some of the same teams that they played in the tournament that they lost to.
Yep.
But Taylor Ripple, kudos to
she's
her.
fantastic.
She had a fantastic season with all the kills. And kudos to Kira Banana, who we're going to be talking about a lot during basketball season, is one of the best players, post players in the KSAC and in District 9. And then you have those 2 setters, Elena Carrico and Alan Hagan, who are just money with those sets. They combine for 30-plus sets a night in that 2-setter system, and they're all coming back except for Taylor Ripple. And then Kira Banana. So they got some future ahead, a good future ahead of them too at Redbank.
They sure do. While we're at it too, we talk about volleyball, but we do want to mention a lot of folks continue to come with questions about the NFHS, and they're like, do we have to buy the game? What's going on with the game? The big thing that folks need to know is the NFHS owns the rights to all of the state playoff games other than wrestling. They, when it comes to wrestling, that's Flow Sports. So they decide basically if they want that game, if they're going to bring that game, and if they do want that game, then that broadcast is only on NFHS. And that's the case, of course, with the Clarion and Farrell game. We kind of figured that because that's going to be a pretty big game. Before this, when we were doing games, when Redbank made a run, Clarion's made a run in the past, to bring those games, it starts at $1,500 for the first game. That's $1,500 to broadcast that first round. That second game is now $2,000, and then it jumps up after that for that semifinal. So those were all fees and things that we were paying through our sponsors and things like that. So in a way, we're not, with NFHS, we don't have to go out to the businesses and ask for more to help bring those games. With NFHS, of course, you have that subscription. But for $11.99 a month, you can watch all of the sports that you want on there, and you can cancel at any time. So that's kind of the reasoning why that game's on NFHS.
And it's just the way it is. They have the rights.
Yep.
And they hire contractors like ourselves to do the games. And they would rather have people who know the teams do their broadcast than maybe a broadcast that they would employ themselves that don't know anything about the team. So you're going to get a better quality broadcast for your money with guys like that know these teams, that know who that they're intimately knowledgeable about these teams. So. But yeah, it's just the nature of the game right now. It's just how it is now.
And the championships are owned by PCN, so even if we would get to that point, we can always do an audio broadcast, and we usually will try that, especially when it comes to football. We did it for
Redbank when they got to the state championship game.
And for volleyball or whatever.
And baseball for Clarion, when Clarion played DCC, we had that on radio.
With the audio broadcast. So, we're able to still do an audio broadcast. But of course, this week, though, because we're doing it for NFHS, that'll be the reason why that game will be there on there. But you can go to nfhs.com. You can sign up, get a subscription to that. And again, for $11.99, it costs, if you're not able to get out there, it costs a lot more to drive there, to get your tickets and all of those types of things, for that price. So
and I believe you can cancel at any time. So you can pay your $11.99 to get that game, and then just go back on and cancel it. Or you want to keep it if you want to watch some other games, say playoff games in the future.
Yeah, that's for the whole month. So you get to catch all of that up until the games go to PCN. So that's just how it is. All right, we're going to take a time out. We're going to come back, wrap things up here tonight, and let you know where we're going to be at this weekend and get you set up for all of that. It's all coming up. We'll take one last break, and it is the Redbank Chevrolet Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House. Back right after this.
This is a great show.
Hey, check out this all-new 2024 Chevrolet Trax 1RS in cacti green. Let's talk about some of those safety features. We have blind spot monitoring system, we have forward collision system with alert and brake, and we have lane departure warning as well. How about the gas mileage?
30 miles per gallon average. Yeah, it's great.
People really love those safety features like blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning with alert and braking, and lane departure warning.
Bumper-to-bumper warranty and the 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty.
And check out the clarity on this backup camera on this 11-inch touchscreen.
It's great.
Can you believe you get all the features like heated steering wheel, heated seats, remote start, power sunroof, all for $24,900?
That's a great value in the new Chevrolet.
Hey, check out this Glacier Blue RST Silverado 4x4 Z71 four-wheel drive. 5.3 liter V8. It's a really nice, sharp truck. All LT and RST Silverados have this same interior. Got this really large touchscreen display, built-in Google Maps, heated seats, automatic climate control, heated steering wheel. We have a backup camera, really great display,
and all the safety aspects. Adaptive parking, adaptive braking, pedestrian braking, blind spot mitigation.
Follow us to Redbank Chevrolet.
Dubrook is your trusted ready-mix concrete supplier. From commercial to residential, Dubrook has you covered. Call 1-844-DUBROOK or visit DoBrooking.com. DuBrook is proud to support our local communities. DuBrook, your solid choice in all things concrete.
At Clarion County Community Bank, you're more than just a number. With personalized service and modern conveniences, they make banking easy. Clarion County Community Bank, where community comes first.
Welcome back to the Main Street Sports Show here from the Haskell House. Mike Kalinowski, Mike Kilroy, Tyler Oakes behind the screen, getting set to wrap things up. Well, we got a busy Friday night coming up, Mr. Kilroy, don't we?
Yeah, 2 great games. It's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds on Friday night. I'm going to be at Farrell to watch Central Clarion and Farrell take on each other. With Dave Cadis doing play-by-play, I'll be on the color for that game. And I know you and Bob Dunkel are up in the hinterlands in Bradford.
Yep, with all of the people in their igloos getting set to go. But yeah, I apologize. I'm sending Cadis with you. I'm just telling you up front.
Hey, we did the Kern City
Yes,
the Kern City game. We had a good time. So I'm looking forward to working with Dave again and doing a game again. It was fun the last time I did it. So looking forward to it again.
Okay, and again, the Central Clarion and Farrell game is on NFHS. You do need a subscription to watch that.
So you have to pay to listen to my expert color commentary.
For $11.99, that's cheap, right? And then, of course, in Bradford, we'll have Redbank Valley Port Allegheny District 9 Single A Championship. That's on Explore Clarion, Explore Sports PA, our YouTube channel. I'll be up there with the Governor, Bob Dunkel. So we'll be bringing that to you. So that sounds like going to be a busy Friday night. Hopefully we continue on in those state playoffs too.
Yeah, like I said, four really good teams playing against each other, 2 really good games. This is what it's all about this time of year. It's the District 9 championship game. It's the first round of state playoffs too. You know, everyone who gets to this point is good. Yep. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Should be great. All right, that'll wrap things up here from the Haskell House. Again, for my partner, Mike Kilroy, this is Mike Kalinowski bidding you a pleasant good night. And again, this was the Redbank Valley Main Street Sports Show live from the Haskell House. Have a great night, and we'll see you on Friday night.
Have a great day.